Each week, in partnership with the GI Museum in Gaucher, we interview veterans of the military about their experiences abroad. We'll air these stories unedited and unchanged. These heroes were there, on the front line, and lived through unspeakable horrors to tell us their story. And now, we sit down with a true hero.
In May of 1945, the war in Europe was over, but the war in the Pacific was still a bloodbath, one that was projected to be even worse with the invasion of Japan. If your father or your grandfather was slated to make that invasion, a campaign that was projected to last from 2 to 4 more years and approximately 1 million casualties, you may not be here today. These crosses, which were produced by the United States government, 750,000 of them, were never used thanks to the brave men of the USS Indianapolis. They delivered the components of the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. The other atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki ended the war and prevented those 1 million casualties, and allowed the fostering of many generations that may not have happened after the war. Today, we are honored to have Mr. Maurice Bell. Mr. Bell is a survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Mr. Bell, it is an honor to have you with us here today.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here.
I would like to start with, how did you get into the Navy?
Well, when I turned 18, I had to go to the draft board, and I had so many days to register. And about 2 or 3 months later, I got a notice from the draft board that come. So I went to Camp Shelby here in Mississippi, and they told us anyone that passed the Army physical could go into the Navy or Army, either one we wanted. Well, there was a group of us guys together, and we all decided the Navy because we didn't want to sleep in a mud hole.
I don't blame you.
So I went to the Navy and went to Great Lakes, Illinois, and boot camp.
And what did you train to do in the Navy? What was your military skill that you were training?
Well, after I went aboard ship.
You went aboard ship first?
Before, yes. I took my boot camp at Great Lakes and then went right overseas and went to Pearl Harbor. And I stayed in Pearl Harbor a couple of days, and they assigned me to the USS Indianapolis heavy cruiser. And they put me in the 7th Division, which had charge of the 20-millimeter anti-aircraft guns and all the lookout watch. So that's what they trained me to do while I was on there.
Well, how long were you on the Indianapolis?
I stayed on it right at 2 years before it went down.
Now, the ship was in commission in the 30s.
It was commissioned in, I believe it was 32. President Roosevelt used it as his flagship to travel around the world back when he first went into office.
Yeah, ironically, it was called the Lucky Indianapolis.
Yes, that's right, until it sunk.
Until it sank. Now, the Indianapolis, you were making a lot of campaigns in the Pacific on that ship, were you not?
Yes. We was in an invasion of quite a few of those islands out there. I can call the names of a lot of them, but not in rotation as the way we took them.
And your job was naval gunfire support? Is that what y'all were providing
Right.
for the invasion?
Right. We was anti-aircraft guns that we had. Of course, the ship had 40 millimeters and 5-inch guns and larger guns.
8-inch guns.
8-inch. Couldn't remember. Been so many years, you know. And we shot down quite a few planes. I forget exactly now during the war. And we almost got hit another time by a kamikaze, but the gun shooting at him turned him, and he crashed a little ways from us.
But you did get hit by a kamikaze in March of
Yes.
1945.
That's right, at we was bombarding Okinawa. And every morning there, we would go into general quarters because the kamikazes would come in and try to sink anything they could, do as much damage as possible. Well, they would always try to come in out of the sun, so we would have to be looking right in the sun to see them. And we would go to general quarters, and then when everything was clear, would secure. Well, this particular morning, we went in general quarters, sitting there, and nothing showed up. After a while, the sun had been up for a while. We cleared from general quarters. I was sitting up on the starboard side of the bridge, and I couldn't leave my station until my relief got there. And he had the duty, it's supposed to have been from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. So he went down and have breakfast before he come up to relieve me, which I didn't mind because I knew he'd get a little hungry before noon. And so I was sitting there in my lookout station, and I looked up to my right. There was a cloud up there. And just as I looked up to my right, the plane come out of the cloud. And the pilot spotted us instantly because when he come out, he just turned right into a dive coming down. And one man back aft in the area called the bathtub opened fire on him. And I could see the tracers. I think it was 1 out of every 8 bullets, I'm not sure. Anyway, I could see those tracers going and hitting the plane. And that plane was coming just as straight down to the bridge where I was sitting as an arrow. And all at once, when those bullets hitting it, it turned him to the left just a little bit. I saw it as it turned to the left, just barely little. Come on down and missed where I was at and hit the radar right above this man's head. It was shooting at him, but didn't hurt him. And he crashed on this port side, just forward of the port screws. And of course, it knocked them out. And it knocked out all the water purification stations. And it took us about 3 months to get it repaired good enough to get back to the States for dry dock. And we pulled into a little harbor there, and I can't remember the name of it, but and dropped anchor out there. And the Japanese were still on these little islands all the way circle us. And at night, they would strip off, put black grease or something on them so they wouldn't reflect in the moonlight, swim out to different ships. It was anchored. There was a bunch of them anchored out there that'd been damaged. And they would try to get aboard if they could. If they couldn't, they'd get up close against the ship somewhere, blow themselves up. So all this people over there blowing themselves up now is not new to me.
No, sir.
And we let our motor whaleboat down at night. Coxswain, radioman, and a Marine. We had 39 Marines aboard ship with his machine guns would be circling the ship all night. And they had orders to fire at anything they see moving in the water. And they done a good job on watching too. And they was wanting to fire their guns so bad they see anything out there, boy, they'd fire at it. And they'd go around real fast and check to find out what it was. Call back and tell them cardboard box or something. And I know that the Marines on the bow of the ship is walking back and forth, wanted to fire their guns, and I told them, I'll fix you up. So I sneaked down, I got a cardboard box about so big, come up and laid down on the bow, right on the point of the ship. When the boat went around going down the port side, I throwed that box over, and it floated on out, got out there, well, they both opened up on it. Captain McVeigh hollered and wanted to know what they're shooting at. One of them said, don't know, sir, we see something. Called down to the boat to come around and investigate, and he called back a little bit and said, cardboard box. Captain come down there and patted them on the back and shook their hands and congratulated them for being on the ball. if he'd have known what really happened, there'd have been 2 Marines and 1 sailor in the brig.
And you might have been one of them.
I would have been that sailor. Probably on bread and water.
Yeah. Now, the bomb that was on the kamikaze actually went through the ship.
When it hit the deck, he must have just released it, just a fraction before it hit the deck. It was a penetrating bomb. I don't know what size, but it went through the steel deck. Right below was number 3 mess hall, and in that corner where it went through, there was 4 or 5 men sitting there at the table eating breakfast. And the bomb went through that table. It killed them men and went all the way through the ship, and just as it got in the water, it exploded back up through and wounded 29, I believe it was. 9 killed and 29 wounded at that time.
And it was because of that damage that the Indianapolis went back to the West Coast for repairs.
Right, that's right. We pulled into that little harbor that I was talking about a minute ago, and they brought a flat barge alongside loaded with sheets of steel and underwater welding equipment, which I didn't know at that time they could weld underwater. But they welded these sheets of steel on the side, that hole, and then they went inside, because we had that area blocked off for watertight doors. Well, after they got the sheets of steel welded on over that hole, well, they opened it up and poured concrete in there. Where they got the concrete from, I have no idea. But then they sealed that all back watertight again, and we got underway. And ever so often we would have to meet water tenders, take on fresh water, because they couldn't use salt water to operate the machinery and stuff.
Yeah, you can't make steam with salt water.
That's right.
And you finally got her back to the West Coast.
Yeah, we finally got back to Mare Island, California, which is right across the bay from Vallejo, and they gave us, I think it was 20 or 21 day leave. I got the first leave. Went home. My folks was living in Chicago at the time, so then my wife went back to California with me. Stayed there till the ship sailed again.
Well, with that, Mr. Bell, we're going to have to take a short break.
Okay.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more local heroes and Mr. Maurice Bell, survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Welcome back to Local Heroes here on WKFK TV7, coming to you from the GI Museum. We are honored and privileged to be talking to Mr. Maurice Bell. He is a survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Mr. Bell, we left off where you had gone home on leave after the ship had gone back to California for repairs, and you were there about 20 days.
Yeah, I had about 21 day leave. I can't remember, been so many years back, But when I went back, my wife went with me and stayed out there until the ship sailed again. And we stayed on the island in a Quonset hut. The Navy furnished these huts rented them to us for $1 a day.
Boy, they gave you the best accommodations, didn't they? Quonset huts.
One of my best buddies and his wife rented one, and of course it had 3 bedrooms, kitchen and everything. And so my wife and I moved in, took 1 bedroom and all. That way it cost us 50 cents a day.
50 cents
for rent. They furnished everything but your eats. And they had these trolley things out running by every few minutes. You just wanted to go to somewhere on the island, and you just walk out there and hang on the side of one of them. And that didn't cost you anything. And we got to where we would hardly leave the island to go over to Vallejo, because we could go to a movie for a dime. We could go bowling 10-cent a line. Yedunk ice cream
Yeah, that's what they call it in the Navy.
was, I think, a nickel. So we would usually go out that way and spend about 50 or 60 cents. If we crossed the bay, before we could walk a half a block, we'd done spent $10. So it was so much cheaper to go over there. Well, we stayed there until the ship got out of dry dock, and our latest orders was to proceed to Hunter's Point, which is across the bay from San Francisco, pick up cargo for delivery. When we got over there and tied up to the pier, well, they picked certain men on there to load this cargo ship, and I always got picked for a working party. But I'm glad I got that one now, because that one turned out to be loading the 2 atomic bombs, components of the bombs that was dropped in Japan to end World War II. And they had the uranium and other trigger, and all that stuff in lead containers. They took them up in officers' quarters, and they'd built special racks up there, just barely to fit them. And they'd slide these things down in there, and then they'd put a bar across it with special locks, and some Marine or somebody would stand there guard. But I helped load the large crate, the one that we had to set it on the quarter deck with a crane, and then we would take pipe, about a 2-inch pipe, I guess it was, and roll it on the deck. When one would roll out here, we'd grab it and take it to the front, put it under there until we got it inside of the port hangar, and we got this piped out from under it and fastened it down to the steel deck. And as soon as we got it all completely secured, we had to back off. Marine guard stepped up there with his machine gun. Now, we could walk through the hangar anytime we wanted to, but we wasn't supposed to stop and talk to the Marine guard or get up. Oh, we'd walk, I guess, about maybe 40 minutes that wall over there from this box. Of course, we didn't know what it was, and rumors started on there as to what we was delivering. But we got underway, and they told us that sooner we could get to our destination and unload it, that'd shorten the war that much. That's all we knew. And we made a record speed run, went to Pearl Harbor, stopped for just a very few short hours, got underway again, record speed from there to Tinian, where the Enola Gay was waiting. And that record run averaged 28 knots, and our top speed was about 32. And that record speed run still holds to this day for a heavy cruiser.
You made it about 10 days.
Yep.
And what were some of the rumors that were going around of what you were carrying?
Well, there was quite quite a few rumors, but I can't remember most of them. But the one main one that I can remember, we was carrying scented toilet paper to General MacArthur.
Scented toilet paper under Marine guard with a machine gun. I don't guess MacArthur wanted any of that to disappear. You Navy troops were after that, huh?
That was right.
So you get to the island of Tinian, and you unload this. You still did not know that you were carrying components of an atomic bomb, did you?
No, we did not know. We got to Tinian, we pulled up in the harbor and dropped anchor. Most everybody thinks we pulled up to a pier and unloaded it, but we didn't. We pulled up in the middle of the harbor, dropped anchor, and they pushed some flat barges out there. And they was loaded with officers, Army, Navy, Marines. Never seen so many of them. And we set that crate off on that barge. And they brought the other stuff, and then they pushed it on away to the pier where the trucks was waiting on it. They had the trucks backed up on the piers. And well, when these officers left the ship, we got underway just very shortly and headed to Guam, Okinawa. Let's see, Guam or Okinawa.
It was Guam,
I
yes,
get
sir.
mixed up on it.
It was Guam, yes, sir.
And we stayed there a couple nights or so. And Captain McVeigh sent one of the officers over to check on an order he had placed back some time back. He had ordered 500 new life jackets. Of course, our life jackets was getting old and ragged, and they hadn't delivered them. So he sent an officer over there to check on them. Right away, here come the order, plus a duplicate order, 1,000 of them. They unloaded them. They had a big pile of them up there in the bathtub. And each one of us was supposed to have our life jacket on all times we're underway. I didn't even know where mine was at, much less be wearing it at the time. And they gave us orders to proceed to the Philippine Islands, pick up Admiral Raymond Spruance, because he was the flagship of the Fifth Fleet, and our ship was the flagship. And so we was going to pick him up and then test their guns, join the Fifth Fleet, test their guns and everything.
You were going to get ready for the invasion of Japan.
Right. They had already set the date for the invasion of Japan, which I didn't know at the time. And that's what we was getting ready for. And so just before we got underway, Captain asked for an escort. They said, we don't have any, and you don't need one anyway.
That would be a destroyer escort.
Yeah. So they told us just get underway and go. So we did. I don't remember which day of the week, but anyway, on Sunday, we took it easy that day. Most of us went to church service that morning. And then that night, I happened to have all night off that night to
Now
sleep.
you're underway at this time, at
Yes.
this point. Yes, sir.
And they did not tell us that a certain area out there, they knew there were submarines out there, because there's another ship that had been sunk just a few days before right there. And they didn't tell us about that. So first thing we knew about a submarine was on Sunday night, right about midnight. And when Captain Hashimoto shot 3 or 4 torpedoes at us, got 2 direct hits. There's about 60 feet or so of the bow blown completely off. We was doing 32 knots. And the second one hit just a second or so later, further back into the ammunition supply depot. And the ammunition started blowing up. And with the bow completely blown off, doing 16 knots, the engines never shut down, plowing right into the water and just crushing one bulkhead right after another, filling it up with water. That's the reason it turned over and sunk so fast. Less than 15 minutes.
Now let's set the stage for this. So it's 14 minutes past midnight.
Yeah.
You're down in your bunk. You asleep at the time?
I was till the first torpedo hit, and then I was awake immediately.
I bet you were, and then you came out of your bunk.
Yeah, I came out of my bunk, got up off the deck, and I put my pants and shirt on, and my shoes and socks, but I didn't tie my shoes, grabbed my hat, and started looking for my life jacket. I had to go up to the bathtub where there was some of those new ones. I got one of them. When I got up there was 3 left. As I reached down for one of them, somebody grabbed it, and I got the next one. There was 1 left. And I went down to the port side, the very spot where that kamikaze plane crashed on it. And I remember running up and grabbing the lifeline with both hands. The next thing I can remember, because there's a blank, mental blank in there, I was standing up straight on the port screw shaft just forward of the screw. And I looked back to my left, just a few feet back there. There it was, still turning, sticking up about 30 feet up in the air. And going over the lifeline and around the ship as it rolled on over. I don't remember. Guess it's a good thing I can't remember it. And I jumped from there.
Well, Mr. Bell, we're going to have to end this program, but we're going to get you back for the next one. So I know you're not going to want to miss the end of this story. So join us again for the next Local Heroes, where we'll be talking more with Mr. Maurice Bell, survivor of the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. Don't miss that one.